There is a moment in every soul connection where the pressure becomes almost unbearable, where the questions get louder, the signs feel confusing, and your heart wonders how much more it can carry without breaking. If you're here right now, it's not random. Something has been building behind the scenes, quietly, deliberately, and you've been standing in the middle of it without realizing how close you are to the turning point. What you're feeling isn't weakness. It's not obsession. It's not you failing to let go. It's the weight of a test that was never meant to last forever. And this moment is different from all the others that came before it. There has been a cycle repeating itself around this person, a pattern that keeps resurfacing just when you think you've healed enough, grown enough, surrendered enough. Every time you felt ready to move forward, something pulled you back emotionally. A memory, a dream, a sudden wave of longing that didn't make sense. You told yourself it was just your mind, just your heart being stubborn. But deep down, you knew it was more than that. You knew something unfinished was still breathing between you. And what you're about to hear today isn't meant to confuse you further. It's meant to clarify why this pressure exists, what it's asking of you, and why the outcome depends on how you respond now. This connection was never casual. It wasn't designed to be easy or surface level. It was meant to activate growth, self-respect, faith, and emotional maturity on both sides. That's why it's felt so intense. That's why walking away never really worked. And that's why holding on blindly hasn't worked either. You've been positioned between trust and surrender, between fear and belief. And the test you're in right now isn't about whether you still love them. It's about whether you trust what's being asked of you at this stage. For a long time, you were asked to wait without clarity, to feel without reassurance, to hope without proof. And that was not punishment. That was preparation. Because the version of you from the beginning of this connection would not have been able to handle what's coming next. You needed emotional grounding. You needed boundaries. You needed to stop chasing signs and start embodying certainty within yourself. And that's why the energy has shifted. The emotional weight feels heavier now, but only because the lesson is more precise. What makes this moment different is that you're no longer being tested on patience alone. You're being tested on alignment, on whether you can choose peace over panic, truth over fantasy, self-worth over emotional dependency. The universe doesn't repeat lessons endlessly. When something keeps coming back, it's because the decision hasn't been made fully yet. Not by them, not by you, or both. And now the pressure is increasing because the window for clarity is open. You may have noticed that your tolerance has changed. Things you once accepted emotionally now feel uncomfortable. Silence feels louder. Mixed signals feel heavier. Waiting without direction feels draining instead of romantic. That's not you losing faith. That's you outgrowing confusion. And that growth is intentional. Because this connection can only move forward in truth, or it must dissolve completely. There is no longer space for emotional limbo. What's powerful here is that you're not being asked to force anything. You're being asked to stand still internally, to stop chasing answers outside of yourself. The test is not about proving your love. It's about trusting that what's meant to stay will meet you at your level of self-respect. And what's not aligned will fall away, no matter how tightly you try to hold it. This is why emotions are surfacing so intensely right now. Old wounds connected to this person are rising, not to hurt you, but to be healed or released once and for all. You're being shown exactly what still has power over you. And awareness is the final gate. Once you see it clearly, you can't unsee it. Once you feel it honestly, you can't go back to pretending it doesn't matter. For some of you, this test is about not reaching out when your emotions spike. For others, it's about finally speaking your truth instead of staying silent out of fear of loss. For some, it's about letting go of how you thought this story had to look. And for others, It's about choosing yourself without bitterness, without resentment, without closing your heart. The form of the test may differ, but the core lesson is the same. You are being asked to choose from a place of wholeness, not longing. This connection responds to authenticity. When you step into emotional honesty with yourself, the energy between you shifts automatically. That's why the tension feels heightened. That's why signs may be increasing. That's why dreams may feel vivid. It's not to distract you, it's to bring you to a decision point. And that decision isn't always an action. Sometimes it's an internal release. Sometimes it's a boundary. Sometimes it's surrendering the outcome entirely. You don't need to prove anything right now. You don't need to convince the universe of your devotion. That part has already been seen. What's being observed now is whether you can trust that what's meant for you will not require you to abandon yourself. That's the shift. That's the difference between love as attachment and love as alignment. And here's something important you need to understand. Whatever happens next will not come from force. It will come from clarity. When the test is complete, confusion ends, one way or another. And that's why this moment feels so emotionally charged, because endings and breakthroughs carry the same intensity. The difference is what you choose to hold on to internally. Before going deeper, I want you to anchor yourself in this moment. Take a breath, check in with your heart, and if what's being said resonates with you, I want you to comment just one word: ready. Because once you reach this point internally, the way you experience this connection begins to change, even if nothing on the outside has shifted yet. That's something many people misunderstand. They expect the confirmation to come first through a message, an apology, a reunion, or a clear sign from the other person. But in destined connections, the shift always happens internally before it manifests externally. And that's exactly where you are right now. You're starting to see the difference between love that expands you and attachment that drains you. Before, the emotional pull felt intoxicating, almost addictive. You may have confused intensity with destiny, urgency with meaning. But now, something subtler is happening. You still feel the connection, but you're no longer willing to lose yourself inside it. That's not you giving up. That's you stepping into emotional sovereignty. This test is revealing whether you can stay centered even when emotions are triggered, whether you can observe the longing without letting it control your choices, whether you can hold space for love without demanding certainty on your own terms. And that's not easy. In fact, this is one of the hardest phases of any soul-bonded connection because it requires restraint, faith, and maturity at the same time. There's a reason this feels like the final pressure point. You're no longer being asked to wait passively. You're being asked to embody the version of yourself that no longer negotiates with confusion. The universe isn't testing how much pain you can endure. It's testing whether you've integrated the lessons this connection was meant to teach you. And lessons that are integrated don't repeat. Think back to how you used to respond to silence, distance, or emotional inconsistency. It probably sent you into overthinking, self-doubt, or emotional spirals. You questioned your worth. You questioned their feelings. You questioned the entire connection. But now, even though it may still hurt, you're not collapsing in the same way. You're more aware, more grounded, less willing to abandon yourself just to feel close to someone who isn't meeting you fully. That shift matters more than you realize, because destined connections do not come together when one person is emotionally chasing and the other is emotionally hiding. They align when both people reach a place of inner stability. And sometimes, the only way for that to happen is through a moment where one person stops reaching and starts trusting. You may feel torn right now between two impulses. One part of you wants resolution immediately, answers, movement, a clear outcome. The other part of you feels called to stay still, to observe, to let things unfold without forcing them. That inner conflict is not a mistake, it's the crossroads, And how you navigate it determines whether this connection evolves or ends. What many don't realize is that endings in soul connections are not always permanent, and continuations are not always healthy. The universe doesn't reward attachment. It responds to alignment. If this person is meant to walk beside you, they must meet you at the level of truth you're now standing in. And if they're not able or willing to do that, no amount of emotional effort from your side can carry the connection forward. That's why this phase requires courage, because clarity can feel scarier than hope. Hope allows you to imagine any outcome you want. Clarity forces you to accept what is, and yet clarity is the doorway to peace. Whether that peace comes through reunion or release depends on what's aligned with your growth, not just your desire. You may notice that you're being challenged to let go of control, to stop monitoring signs, to stop interpreting every small detail as confirmation or rejection. That constant emotional scanning keeps you stuck in anxiety. This test is asking you to trust without obsessing, to believe without clinging, to love without shrinking yourself. There's also something happening on the other side of this connection. Even if you're not in communication, even if there's distance, the energetic dynamic is shifting. When one person steps into self-respect and emotional neutrality, it disrupts the old pattern. The push and pull loses its power, and that often forces the other person to confront what they've been avoiding. Not because you demanded it, but because the dynamic no longer supports avoidance. This is where many people sabotage the process. Just as the lesson is nearing completion, fear rushes in. Fear of loss, fear of being forgotten, fear that if you don't act now, you'll miss your chance. But acting from fear resets the cycle. Acting from alignment completes it. You are not being asked to suppress your feelings. You're being asked to hold them with awareness, to stop making decisions from emotional spikes and start making them from inner truth. That's the difference between repeating a lesson and graduating from it. Pay attention to what's coming up for you emotionally right now. Is it frustration, exhaustion, acceptance, calm? Those emotions are messengers. They're showing you where you stand internally. And wherever you stand internally is what you're calling in externally. If you feel tired of waiting, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're ready for resolution. If you feel detached but still loving, that doesn't mean you've stopped caring. It means you've stopped clinging. And if you feel calm, despite uncertainty, that's one of the strongest indicators that the test is almost complete. This phase is not about doing more. It's about being honest with yourself, about acknowledging what you truly need in a connection, about recognizing whether this person, as they are right now, is capable of meeting you in the way your soul requires, not in potential, not in fantasy, but in reality. And here's the truth that often goes unspoken. Sometimes the final test is not about holding on. It's about being willing to let go if alignment doesn't occur. That willingness alone can shift everything, because it tells the universe you trust yourself enough to be okay either way. As this pressure builds, you may feel moments of deep clarity followed by moments of doubt. That's normal. Integration isn't linear, but the overall direction is forward. You're not going backward. You're not regressing. You're stabilizing, and stabilization is what allows destiny to move without resistance. This is why you may feel a quiet strength emerging beneath the emotional waves, a sense that no matter what happens, you'll be okay. That sense is not detachment from love, it's attachment to truth, and truth is the foundation of every lasting soul connection. What comes next depends on whether both hearts are willing to meet in honesty. But regardless of the outcome, you are stepping out of the cycle of testing and into the space of knowing. And once you enter that space, nothing stays unclear for long. And that space of knowing is where everything quietly resolves, even before you see evidence of it in the physical world. This is the stage most people never reach because it requires trust without tension. Not passive waiting, not emotional shutdown, but a grounded openness that says, I am available for what is aligned, and I am no longer afraid of what is not. That inner posture changes the entire trajectory of this connection. Right now, you are standing in a moment of energetic truth. The emotional noise has softened just enough for you to hear your intuition clearly. And what it's been trying to tell you is simple, even if it hasn't felt easy to accept. This connection was never meant to keep you stuck in uncertainty. It was meant to awaken you, to mature you, to teach you how to love without losing yourself. And that lesson is now complete. That doesn't automatically mean the story ends, but it does mean the story cannot continue in the same way. Whatever comes next must be built on mutual clarity, mutual effort, and mutual emotional presence. Anything less would pull you backward into a version of yourself you've already outgrown. This is why the universe allowed things to stretch to this point. Because if resolution had come earlier, you might have settled. You might have accepted half answers, inconsistent energy, or unspoken expectations just to keep the connection alive. Now you won't. Not because you're hardened, but because you're honest. And honesty is non-negotiable at this level. If this person steps forward from a place of truth, you'll recognize it immediately. There will be no confusion, no guessing, no emotional whiplash. Peace will replace anxiety. Consistency will replace intensity. And if that doesn't happen, you will also recognize that just as clearly. And instead of breaking, you will release with grace. That is how you know the test is truly over. What you may not realize is how much strength it has taken to get here. The nights you questioned yourself, the moments you felt foolish for still caring, the times you tried to convince yourself you were over it when your heart wasn't ready yet. None of that was wasted. It was all part of the refinement process. You were being shaped into someone who no longer chases love, but allows it to meet you. And here's something important. Even if you don't see it yet, your choice to stay aligned internally has already shifted the dynamic. When you stop feeding confusion with emotional energy, it dissolves. When you stop negotiating your worth, the universe responds differently. When you choose peace without closing your heart, doors open in ways you can't predict. That's why there's a quiet sense of inevitability around this moment. Not inevitability about a specific outcome, but inevitability about clarity. One way or another, you will not be left wondering anymore. And that certainty is the real gift. As this unfolds, you may notice your focus changing. You may feel more drawn to your own life, your purpose, your growth. That's not you abandoning the connection. That's you returning to yourself. And paradoxically, that's the energy in which true alignment can finally occur. If this person is meant to walk with you, they will feel the shift. They will feel the distance created by your self-respect. And they will either rise to meet you or fall away. Either outcome is aligned. Either outcome honors your growth. And that's why you don't need to fear what's coming next. Now, I want to speak to you heart to heart for a moment. This space we share here exists because of you. Because of your openness, your willingness to reflect, your courage to stay present with difficult emotions instead of running from them. Creating messages like this, holding this energetic container, and reaching the people who need to hear these words requires real support. Not just emotionally, but practically. If this message has helped you feel seen, grounded, or clearer than you were before, and you feel guided to give back, using super thanks is a powerful way to do that. It's not about obligation. It's about energetic exchange. When you support this work, you help keep these messages flowing, reaching others who are standing at the same crossroads you just passed through. Your contribution, no matter the size, is an affirmation that this space matters, that these conversations matter, That spiritual clarity deserves to be nurtured and sustained, and that choice, made from alignment rather than pressure, carries its own quiet blessing. Whatever you choose, know this: you are not behind, you are not late, and you are not failing this test. You are completing it, and what comes after completion is always lighter, clearer, and more honest than what came before.